Kyle Klingman with FloWrestling. We have four guests. We have Lexi Janiak from Aurora University, Calli Gilchrist from Brown, Nadia Thomas from North Central, and Rayana Sahagun from Grand Valley State. This is an open forum. Lexi, we'll start with you. What are the unique challenges women face making weight?
First thing that comes to mind is obviously like our cycle. I know everyone's different because everyone's cycle is different, but for me personally, it's usually the week right before I get it is when my body retains the most water. So throughout that week before, like it's not that I gain weight, but you can tell like I like bloat a little bit and it's if I'm cutting weight, it's a little bit harder to get it off. But once my I get my period, it kind of like I like lose a lot of weight really fast, but and you would think that it gets easier, but I'm like losing iron during that time. So like I tend to feel a little bit more fatigued, but then throughout the week it starts to get like back to normal. But throughout the span of a month, there's probably only a good like week and a half to where like your body's like normal. And I think that's kind of hard to it's not hard to manage, but after like years of like working around it, it's kind of like you just have to know and keep track of it for yourself, know going into it beforehand. That's at least in I know everyone's different, but yeah, I walk around probably around 140. So I wrestle 130, so that's about a good 10 pounds. Um I don't I like just like anyone else, like cutting weight sucks, but I feel like in the past couple years, I've kind of figured it out for myself. Whereas like I'm still eating and I'm just getting in extra workouts that just get my weight down. But I think I've done a lot better than when I was younger. I think in high school, I used to wrestle like 106, 113, and I was making like crazy like weight cuts. I walked around like 127, like trying to get down just so I could compete with the guys. But once COVID hit, I gained weight, and then they all decided that it would probably be best for me not to wrestle the boys anymore. So I think that kind of helped me be comfortable with like gaining weight, putting on muscle, and just overall like feeling better and giving me the opportunity to like actually like grow in my wrestling because I feel like a lot of girls fixate too much on like cutting weight and getting their weight down than actually wrestling itself. And I think that impacts a lot of girls' improvement and growth.
Yeah, your cycle obviously is going to affect your weight cut no matter at what point you are in your cycle. Um, and I think what gets really difficult too is if you have an irregular cycle, it becomes a lot harder to track that. Whereas with boys, I think it's a lot more consistent how your weight cut is going to go. Lexi kind of started to allude to this, like you like girls, I think especially when taking your cycle into consideration, you have to be really particular about your weight cut, and it's not going to be consistent every time. So like if you are able to track your period and where you're going to be at like a certain competition date, that might be super helpful. But then you have a lot of girls who have an irregular cycle, who maybe don't get it like on this day every month. And then that kind of brings like this whole new animal into the situation. So I think it is like definitely very complicated. Lexi was talking about like her personal journey. Like I definitely cut more weight in high school than I do now. I really maybe dropped like a couple pounds before competition now, which I think has been super helpful to kind of what you were talking about, like just like getting better as a wrestler, like focusing on gaining strength, lifting, all that, without having to worry about like being extra fatigued from a weight cut. But even in high school, like I would cut maybe like 10 pounds, like total. So I'd only fluctuate like 5 to 6 between. But even that got to be like a lot. And so I do think that in general for everyone in the sport, it's like I am of the opinion that you should focus more on developing as a wrestler than just cutting weight. But also, everyone has an optimal weight and it's different for everyone else. And I think it's more effective for some people to cut more than others. And so I also think that it can be difficult for girls to find that optimal weight for them. because of your cycle, but also like a lot of girls just in general will retain more weight just naturally. Obviously, like we have a higher body fat percentage, so it can be hard figuring out what that means to be healthy, and also to compete at your best.
I think cutting weight as a woman is very difficult because cutting weight in general is hard and it's very like demanding and it takes a huge toll on the emotional side of things. And I think going back to like with women having to deal with their time of the month each month and having those hormones being super high while cutting weight as well. Um, like I think just getting ahead of that and being able to like have your support system to help you get through those like hard times and like make those weight cuts.
Like as a woman, trying to make weight can be difficult. If we just talk about periods, I think that that's something that all girls are gonna have to experience each month, and having to kind of keep in mind like the week of, oh, I have to watch my water intake a little bit more because I'm going to be retaining more water this week, and maybe workouts and trying to get some extra weight off will be more difficult because you don't have that energy that you normally would if you weren't on your period. Um, I think that's a huge thing that like I struggle with, and I know many other girls struggle with.
We'll start with Lexi again. Do you think people understand what women go through and how it's different from males in the sport?
I think to an extent, yes, but I think a lot of people it just doesn't cross their mind. And I think that's the biggest thing is no one really like kind of I mean, it's kind of taboo to talk about periods and stuff. So it's like I don't even think it comes in people's heads to like, oh, that could actually affect. I think if anything, guys like will think like you're losing weight from it because essentially like you know and but that's not the case because you're in order for you to get your period you need to be like your body needs to meet certain things in order to even get it, and that's why you'll see a lot of girls have irregular cycles, they have irregular periods because they're not, especially in wrestling and even high level athletes, they don't have enough body fat, and you need body fat in order to have your accurate cycle. And I think that's why they're trying, or I mean, they already have, but that's why they're trying to increase like the body fats and stuff for women because there's too many like irregular cycles going on. And that kind of like, I know that frustrates a lot of people because like wrestling is associated with like being as lean as possible, being as like down to like your lowest possible weight. And I don't know. I just feel like it's not really considered.
Totally agree. I don't think it's looked at enough. It's like you said, it's definitely a taboo subject for a lot of people. I think that the more we talk about it, the more talked about it's going to be. And I think that's really important. Um, even in general, like men and women together, like a lot of women don't understand all of the science behind menstruation and your cycle, and it's because it's a topic, and we don't like we aren't educated about it enough in general, because there's also all of this, a lot of it new research coming out about like when like at certain points in your cycle you are at higher risk of injury. So I think the week before your period you are more likely to have muscular injuries, and during your period your ligaments are like looser, and you have a higher risk of injury in that regard. um, and training also should be based on at what point you are in your cycle, never mind weight cutting on top of that. I think in general, it's not like we as a society, as like a people, are not educated on this enough, especially how it affects women in a sports environment, not especially wrestling, where you have this whole weight cutting aspect to it. Because already you're at a higher risk of injury with within your cycle, and you can imagine cutting weight when you're fatigued, when you're perhaps like malnourished, you're at a higher risk of injury. So when you put those together, it can cause like a really dangerous situation. And while like increasing like the body fat percentage can be an element of that, like I said, also every girl is different, and every girl has like a different cycle and a different experience. And it can be really complicated and really difficult to pick one number that's like everyone has to adhere to this number, and anyone over this number is healthy, anyone under this number is unhealthy. It's a really complex thing, and it really is going to be like individual to each girl is what's going to be most healthy for them. Everyone has an optimal weight, girls and boys. Or an optimal weight range where they're going to perform best. Like I said, some people cut a little bit more weight and it makes them feel well. If obviously you go about it the right way, like eating healthy, getting in those extra workouts. But definitely, in a general sense, like it needs to be talked about more. We need to do way more research into this in general, like women's sports, and how menstruation can affect that. Absolutely.
Kind of on the more like positive side of cutting weight while being a woman is that I think there's a lot of confidence that comes with it, honestly. I think cutting weight in general is very difficult, and I think like unless you're a woman, like you don't understand like cutting weight while you're on your period. And I think like um the difference between like making weight for a tournament while you're on your period versus another weight cut where like you don't have to run into those problems. You don't have to you don't have to start your cut earlier into the week and stuff like that. I think like for me at least it has brought like a lot of confidence. I guess more on the side of like if I can make weight on my period, like I can do anything.
I think that is just like a learning process. I think that even us as athletes who experience those things, like we're still learning. Like my assistant coach right now is currently collecting a lot of like information and trying to understand more like what our bodies do. Um, but there's just a lot of change and we're all different. Like all of our body types are different, so I think it's different for all of us, but it's still a issue, and I think that we're all just trying to do a better job of understanding it and how it works.
All of you are in different parts of your college career. Some are freshmen, some are seniors about to leave. What kind of changes do you go through physically, emotionally, mentally when you transition from high school to college? We'll start with Callie and then we'll go around.
So I'm a freshman at Brown, and the biggest difference is just the absolute focus that I have on my training. A lot of what I did in high school, and obviously like this wasn't for a lack of great high school coaches. I love my high school experience, but just in general, like I personally had too much focus on cutting weight. I know, but and also a part of that too was because I wrestled co-ed all 4 years of high school. And obviously it's gonna be easier to wrestle boys at a lower weight than at a higher weight because they kind of get exponentially stronger. So there was that whole element of that. But also like there was a lot of sort of just going through the motions in high school, like you show up to practice, you drill, you go live, you go home, you get your extra sprints and you go home. Even the extra work that I was doing was sort of monotonous. It was sort of going through the motions, and a lot of my focus was getting to the next step, like being college, not being the next level of my wrestling per se. Now that I'm here and I have honestly some of the greatest coaching I could ever ask for, with really personalized like training and coaching and all of this stuff. I can kind of like it's focused on every rep, not on every practice even. It's focused on every rep, on every set. Um, and and a lot of the focus on cutting weight has been taken off. Like I said, I really only shave off like a couple pounds before a competition, and I compete far less often. So that's a big strain on my body has gone down quite a bit. I went from dropping like 4 pounds maybe twice a week to like 2 to 3 pounds like once a month, which really makes it easier for me to focus on improving as a wrestler and improving my strength, without having to worry about what my performance is going to look like tomorrow. Um, so I think a lot of college too is just like having access to more resources. Like even as a club, what's really great about where I am is I have access to like a lot of the men's coaching staff and a lot of the men's resources, which I'm forever grateful for. But even like my coach and my resources, like it's just college is at a higher level than any high school, and it sort of just everything is just leveled up.
A lot of girls go through a lot of adversity, I would say, in high school. More than likely, I feel like there are definitely women that have great support groups in high school, but there are also girls that are going to have to put up with some challenges, maybe some coaches that aren't so supportive or maybe so knowledged on women in the sport. And so I think uh, personally, like my experience was going from high school to college was a big uh, change for the better because when I was in high school, I didn't have a whole lot of support from my high school coach and teammates. And right when I got into college, I got to experience being on a female team, and um, we all get to like create this like big relationship that you won't see typically like in a high school team. And I think women's I think women's wrestling is growing and changing. So um, I think that there are girls that are going to experience having that kind of dynamic in high school where there are girls that are supportive and they can work with them. But maybe some aren't as um, lucky to experience that. But I think that college is a huge game changer, and you experience like this feeling of like family typically. Like that's at least what I've experienced. And all my friends from other schools, they've told me about how like they just love being on a female team and um, just having that like feeling of family and support. I thought that I was in my prime in high school, and um, I think that once I got to college, I got to start lifting more. I had people working with me and talking to me about like what I should eat, and like my training plan just changed tremendously. And because I've been getting older and like my body's continuing to change, I just seen like a big uh change like maturity wise like with my body. I feel much stronger. Like I have like that woman strength that I definitely didn't have in high school.
The hardest part of transitioning from high school to college was just learning how to like be okay with failing, be okay with losing, be okay with facing those hardships, whatever it may be, because like no matter what, everyone's gonna face that. And I think just learning how to have like a competitive response, like just learning that quick, like you're forced to learn that quick and you're forced to learn how to like just embrace like the shortcomings and realize that those are like a part of the journey and those like I mean, for me, like I'm a sophomore now in my freshman year, like I remember coming into one of the top programs in the US and um just feeling like I didn't have enough credentials to be here, maybe feeling like a little self-doubt, like maybe kind of questioning like why am I here? Like with like all these high level like big name wrestlers, like I haven't really accomplished that much in high school. I didn't have like too much experience prior to college. Like I did but I started later on into my high school career. Yeah, it was just hard coming into college and just not being used to losing as much and just realizing that like jumping to the next level, you're gonna face those like those harder matches and those harder partners and those harder coaching and stuff like that, and just like um, being able to have that competitive response and just like use that as fuel and like um, grow from those hardships.
When I wrestled in high school, I feel like there's this big like weight cutting culture surrounding like wrestling, and I was always so convinced that I had to be lighter and lighter, and that's the only way I was going to be at my best. And once COVID hit, and so I would have been going into a sophomore year, going into junior, I gained a lot of weight. So I kind of had no choice but to like let myself grow. And even then, I wasn't cutting a lot of weight, but I think I was too hyper fixated on like keeping my weight down, being light, and I would compete at like 57 kilos, like 125, but I would try to stay around that weight. And then I met my coach around junior year, and he kind of helped me like break that mindset and growing into like just being stronger and just focusing on wrestling. And COVID kind of helped because it was just like every every day I'm getting in two practices, like just fixated on just like wrestling itself. And going into my senior year, um, I like I lost. I think I lost a couple times, but those losses really like stuck with me. And I was like, something just like flipped that year where I was like, I know I'm right there. I kept losing matches that I knew like I'm right there. Why can't I ever be that person? Like I'm so close every time. And then um I lost at Fargo, and immediately right after Fargo, normally you take a break going into college, but I was just I'm going to make myself heard in this college scene. And so I just kept working after Fargo. I spent all summer working, and then right after Fargo, I was back on the mats. I came to school here and I kept working. And I think over that course of time, I kind of like picked up on the fact that like wrestling, it's really about how much effort you put in and where you're putting your focus in. And I was just completely bought in that freshman year. And then I think it like carried on throughout every other year. I just kept going, kept moving. And then I came to find out like I don't just love the success from it. I genuinely love wrestling and going to practice every day. It's like the highlight of my day. And especially like working through like this injury right now, it really like highlights how grateful I am to just be here and be present and be on the mat because you really don't realize until it's like taken away. And I think over the course of the 4 years, it's just like falling in love with it is the biggest thing for me. Of course, it's hard, and that's what I love about it. It just every time you go out there and train and work, it's it's a grind, and that's there's nothing else I'd want to do. I think the other thing I learned is like I'm constantly like competing against myself. And I think that was kind of stemmed from even back in high school. Like I'm losing these close matches. What is happening? Losing to people I shouldn't be. What's happening? I'm right there. And I think more often than not, I'm losing to myself. It's not that I'm not the better wrestler. It's I'm making these mental mistakes. And I think that's kind of what I'm working on even now. But that's kind of what I feel like I learned over the past 4 years.
How about image? All of you have been on the front page of Flow and articles. How about the image that you have? Are you hyper critical of what you look like? Do you think women are hypercritical of what you look like?
Social media in general comes with lots of comparison, and I think that like there has been so many times where I have compared like my own journey to somebody else's that I've seen online, like I see FloWrestling post a big name wrestler, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, why am I not there yet? Embracing that and then just accepting like where you're at, like in your journey. You're always going to be like, oh, I could have done this better, or oh, I could have looked better here. Like you're always going to criticize. I think like us as wrestlers too, we're always like never really satisfied. Like we're always like chasing after trying to be better in any way that we can. Um, but I think that's like motivated me a lot, like getting a lot of views and stuff like that just has like motivated me to like, I guess, keep that momentum going and just keep trying to like grow the sport and um, the fans. And I just think there's definitely a lot of comparison that comes into it that can be a little bit hard when you see like comments and stuff like that too. I know that like it's hard like seeing like some of those like harder comments, but then there's also like the other side of that, like positive comments too, that can also like boost your confidence within the sport too.
I think in the past I would be a little bit more hypercritical about it. I would whenever I would see myself on like an article or a post, I would start to like wonder what everyone is thinking about me and how other people may see this and how they're perceiving me, um and I would kind of just get into my head with all these like negative thoughts. But I think that now I've come to a point like I get excited when I see those things, um, because I I think that it's a privilege to be able to do what I do, and um, all I can think about now is the fact that there are younger girls who are seeing these things and they get excited, and they look up to me, and like I want to be that for people, and so I think my mentality has just shifted a whole lot to that, more like who I am to people in like a positive light. So it used to be negative, but now it's more positive for sure. Yeah, sometimes I'll see something and I'm like, oh gosh, that is like a horrible picture of me, my mouth's open, or I'm like super sweaty, or like I just don't look in my prime. So sometimes I do think that. But most of the time, I think that it's just like it's wrestling, so I know I'm gonna look beat up, so it's okay.
It can definitely be hard. Wrestling is a male-dominated sport. Honestly, like any like elite athlete, you're gonna be like pretty muscular. And it being such a seen as such a like a masculine sport, and like as I see my body develop, especially like having grown up in the sport, and I gain like muscle, or I gain or lose weight, and I see that like reflected in photos, like it can be hard where I'm like, oh, like do I look too big in that? Like do I look too bulky in that photo? Like this, that, or the other thing. And changing that mindset is really hard, I think, for any girl. We grow up with social media seeing like this ideal image of what women are supposed to look like now, like in today's age, with Instagram and TikTok more than I think ever before. And this has always been a problem, right? Like in media, women are presented in this very like ideal figure, whatever it is for the time. And when you don't fit that image, it can be hard, especially when that image is like impossible to achieve. Um, Even more so when I'm doing a sport that kind of will pull me away from that image, that figure. And I think, like powerful is beautiful, right? Like all of those things that we tell ourselves that are hard to believe, like they're true, right? Like my body looks the way that it does and it performs well in matches. Um, and I think body image is something that can be difficult for all girls to deal with, especially when you're doing such a quote masculine sport. Um, and then, I have that thing of like, oh my God, like, like my ponytail like rips my hair and like you can see it fall out of my headgear. And you see that in photos, and like a lot of times I'm the only one that notices that, but it can like bother you for a while. And really shifting my focus away from that was an intentional thing that I like still have to do. I think part of it also is like when I feel like I look good, I feel more confident, and a lot of times I perform better. Like I like when my singlet matches my shoes. I like when I look good, it makes me feel good, and then I wrestle good. Like those things are correlated, I think, kind of for anyone. Um, a lot of people more than others. But dealing with image can be really difficult. And I think it's a very intentional thing that especially girls have to do in this day and age, and in this sport. As for like the comments on social media too, like a lot of being a girl wrestler can be really sexualized, and you get like messages and you get like DMs and comments that can be really gross, and it makes you kind of want to like pull away from that spotlight. And it's uncomfortable, and that shouldn't be there, but it is, and it's probably not going to go away. um and I think talking about that and combating that is really important. And like female wrestlers shouldn't be sexualized, um, in the sense that they often are on social media, and it's really unfortunate that that's a thing, and it's really unfortunate that that would ever pull someone away from putting their image out there, especially young girls in the sport. It can get like really uncomfortable.
I mean, Kyle, I could talk about this for like a long time. I have so many stories and stuff. The first thing I can kind of think of is like, yeah, wrestling's a male dominated sport. And growing up, I started wrestling when I was like 7. And I was that, like, growing up, I was that little girl that was too embarrassed to be feminine. Like, I remember there was one time I went to my friend's birthday party and we were all like painting nails, and I got my nails painted, but I was so embarrassed that I got my nails painted, and I was going to have to go to wrestling practice the next day, and I was going to have to wrestle with these boys and they were going to have to see my nails. I woke up early the next morning, like crying, trying to find acetone to wipe it off because I was so embarrassed. So, like, for me personally, I feel like I had like a lot of growth in terms of um, like being okay with being feminine and like being in this male dominated sport. And I think that's something I take pride in. Um, so I Yes, I'm a girl. I love to take pictures. I love to do my makeup. I love to wear jewelry. I love to dress up. I love to go out. And that's something that I had to find comfort in. So I'm very proud of myself for being able to like find that in me. But on the flip side of that, like, yeah, I am strong. I am built. I am muscular. It's like my coaches will like make fun of me because like earlier I was like, no, I'm not gonna get big. I don't want to lift. I don't want to look strong. But then here I am now, like looking at pictures of me, like, damn, I look jacked in this picture, and I'm like, and so I think I start to like become like more proud, and yeah, okay, there might be a rough picture of me wrestling, and I kind of just look at it and laugh, or any picture for that matter. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like I've kind of accepted like that's what I look like in that picture in that moment. It's not a big deal. Like, and I feel like I've had to have a lot of growth with that too, because being a girl, not every girl, but a lot of girls are hyper fixated on the way they look and the way other people see them. And I think I think college helped me a lot with like accepting like, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I look like. I don't really care like what anyone else thinks but myself. So that's kind of where I feel like my standpoint is in that. But I have so many stories of like growing up because I was like a little tomboy who was trying to like fit in with all the guys. And then my mom, one day you're gonna come around asking me for this or that, and I'm gonna be like, I told you so. And I was like, no, I would never do that. I would never wear makeup. I would never do this. I would never do that. And here I am now, like the girly girl I am. So that's kind of where my journey is.
You guys mentioned DMs, so it's easier than ever to send direct messages with Instagram and all of the other social media outlets. What do you do about DMs when someone hits you up?
I definitely do experience getting some inappropriate messages, and those can vary. It could be like to some like moderately inappropriate or like extremely inappropriate things. And whenever I see those kind of things, I tend to just steer away from them. I might message back before I block them, just saying like, "Hey, I don't think that it's okay that you sent me this." Um, and then I will just kind of go on my own way. I'll block them so they're not able to see my content anymore, or reach out to me. And I think that's usually how I go about it. I try not to interact in those kind of situations, but I think sometimes I'll have to just because I don't want that to happen again or that to happen to someone else. And hopefully what I say will influence them to like stop that behavior. Um, but I do experience getting a lot of good messages, and I think I get more good messages than I do bad. And when I get those kind of messages, I get really excited because I feel like it's a lot of coaches or parents to kids and just asking me advice on wrestling or how I handle like how I handle certain situations or um, just letting me know that their children or themselves like look up to me, and I like that does so much for me mentally, and just I'm very thankful for that, and I'm glad that I can do that for people. So I think that I get both sides of the spectrum.
I think there's definitely a wide range. A lot of coaches reached out to me through Instagram DMs, like for college, which is what I tell people that a lot of people are like surprised at like that. A lot of non-athletic, like non-athlete people specifically are surprised that that's the way that I've been reached out to. There's also like different brands will reach out to me that way, different just like opportunities in general. Social media is good for a lot of reasons, and that's one of them. It's people and to get in contact with people, and it can be a great resource to spread your own brand in that sense. But also like I've definitely gotten like different like definitely like inappropriate comments to which you just sort of like block and move on. But yeah, I guess that's mostly been my experience.
This one's definitely not talked about enough. I get lots of like weird DMs, especially when like videos will go viral or stuff like that. And it's just like you just kind of have to ignore them and not really feed into them. Like I feel like it's kind of inevitable, like just being a female athlete getting posted on social media. Like you're gonna get weird people reach out. But it is kind of hard too because um there is like good that comes from it too. So I kind of it's kind of hard, but like you can go on your like for it, example like on Instagram you can go and like have like filtered like some people can like DM you and stuff like that and the rest will just kind of go to spam. So that's kind of like what I have. So anything that's kind of like irrelevant or like suspicious or weird, anything giving weird vibes kind of just goes into my spam. And like every once in a while, I'll check maybe like once a month and make sure like nobody like important has reached out or something like that. But for the most part, um, just try and not feed into those weird comments and weird things that happen. People reach out.
For the most part, like Nadia was saying, like I'll get like stuff in my filters, but most of it is like filtered out pretty well. And if anything, is like usually like bots. But I remember it was like I don't know. I like kind of laugh about it though. It wasn't a DM, but it was just like you guys Flo posted me for like national duels, and like there was so many weird comments. It must have gone on like a weird side of Instagram, and it's just like nonstop weird comments. And I was laughing about it, but it was just like it's uncomfortable, and I don't think people like realize like we're like real people that like see what you say, and it's just weird. I don't know. Like it confuses me that like people will actually like send stuff like that. Like I saw this like meme or it was like a Twitter thing and it was like imagine if we got like took like DMs or like comments and like showed them to like sons' moms or something. Like it was like make a TV show like this. Like do you see what they're saying? Like that's crazy. But yeah. I don't know. I haven't gotten anything like crazy weird in a bit, but it's also filtered. So
You all have been on social media. You have all had clips that have done well. Do you like that? Do you like the attention from an outside source other than something that comes from your Instagram or social media? Is that something you like? Lexi, we'll start with you.
I feel like it promotes the sport. So as long as if it's promoting the sport, I like it. I think before I used to like get nervous, like oh no, like they posted me. What if I do bad now and everybody like sees me? But now it's kind of just like I don't know, like if I hit a cool move or I do something cool, it's like it's gonna get views and it's gonna get looks and it's just like it helps like other girls like see like I don't know I feel like I'm a pretty creative wrestler and there's like a lot of techniques I use and it's just cool to know like maybe if this video is gonna help a little girl out there learn new moves like that's kind of cool to me. So I at first I would like stress me out like oh no like but it's just I don't know. It comes with the sport now. And I can only imagine like hopefully the girls get to this level. I can only imagine like the pressure like a lot of the guys feel. Like you'll see on like Twitter, like there's so many like burner accounts now for like specific like wrestlers, and like I don't want to say it's like hate, but it's definitely a lot of trolling that they get uh, on that side of like social media. And I can only imagine like the pressure that might be on them at times. But I don't know. It comes with the popularity. Like you start getting more popular, and then people are gonna start hating. People are gonna start trolling. So it's like a dual-sided coin.
Yeah, I get excited. I think it definitely helps my confidence when I'm seeing like bigger um like wrestling media when wrestling media posts me, and I just feel very excited because um I feel like I didn't get a whole lot of that like earlier years of wrestling and stuff. So now just seeing it, I think it also helps me just feel better about like the leaps I've made, and so I love seeing those things for sure.
Nadia, you've had two clips on Flow go over 1 million views. Take us through what you feel like. Do you like that when you get something to go viral? What are your thoughts?
I love the support that has came through that, not so much the attention. I feel like it can be like a little overwhelming, a little bit, but I definitely do love the support that comes through that. Um, and I just remember like when I first started wrestling and I followed FloWrestling and I would see other female wrestlers getting posted doing cool moves and stuff like that. I always like dreamed of that. And so like for me, like getting posted on FloWrestling and having that get shared and millions of views, like I think that's like kind of been like a dream since I was little. Like not that like it might not be like a super big deal to some people, but like for me, like I think it's exciting for sure. But yeah, just the main thing is I just love the support that has come through those videos.
Yeah, actually the first time I was posted on Flow, I think I was still in like eighth grade, and I was not the one, like it was not good for me. Like if somebody else hit like a really cool move on me, and I remember it getting posted, and talking about it like with my whole Fargo team, because it was after Fargo, and I was like, oh no, this is so terrible. I was like embarrassed by it, but also like even then I was like, wait, this is like kind of really cool though. And it was like slightly embarrassing, but I was also kind of like, I'm competing at the level of wrestling where like I'm being posted on FloWrestling, and that's really cool because that was the first time I had really competed at that level. So there was even like that side of it, and then when I got to the point where I was posted as the like person doing the cool move, it was like this really cool thing for me. And it was very exciting, and I just remember like talking about that with like a couple of teammates, and a couple of newer girls on the team, being like, oh my God, like this is so cool, like you're so cool, like blah blah blah. And I think that it is something that really gets like this like excitement about sport, and I think that that's really important. um you know and people like girls have come up to me and told me like, oh my God, like I think it would be so cool if I hosted. Um and like you don't even have to do like necessarily like flashy moves to get posted. Like I love seeing like the really flashy stuff that gets posted, but then also like you just see these really like technical, just like really fine-tuned moves on Flow, and I think it's a great way of highlighting all of the different kinds of wrestling with also like getting this excitement up sort of about the sport in general. I also again, like I really love feeling like I'm part of growth in the sport. So when I'm posting something and it's shared and I have people come up to me and say like, this is so cool, that's like really important to me. And I think in this day and age, like social media outreach is absolutely like necessary to kind of for anything, right? Like to get any sport moving. And we did talk about like, yeah, like those weird comments that you'll get, like that is part of it and it's unfortunate, but the more that we promote this sport, the more that it becomes mainstream, the less like the more those comments are going to get filtered out, the more they're going to drop to the bottom of the comment section, like the less attention those are going to get. And I think it's just like it's really unfortunate and we should fight that as much as we can. But the more that we promote women's wrestling as this mainstream sport, the less that those are going to be relevant. But yeah, like I love when I get posted. And even though like attention, in most situations, it's still like this very exciting thing. Um, and like when people have said, "Oh, like hot shot, you got posted on FloWrestling," even if it's as a joke, I'm kind of like very uncomfortable, but it's also like very exciting. And I really am grateful to feel like I'm a part of this level of the sport.
Nadia, would you elaborate on something you said? Do you like it then when you do get posted and you do go viral? Is that something you want, or would you rather not get the attention?
I enjoy getting posted, and I think like for me, it's helped my confidence too. Just like not so much that like reassurance, but just like people coming up to you or sending you the video and being like, "Whoa, this is so cool," or like those supportive kind of um comments and whatnot. Um I think yeah, a lot of confidence has came from that, and like I sometimes I'll be like wrestling in a match and like there's been times where I'm like wrestling and I'm trying to think of like different cool moves to do and be like, "Oh, I could get clipped on flow." Like me and my coaches always joke around, like they're always like, "What are you gonna hit next? Like what are you gonna do?" Try and get like we always joke around and like do funny moves to try and like get clipped on flow and stuff like that. So I think it's fun and it's exciting. I do enjoy it, yes.
You all are from different teams, different backgrounds, different environments. What can you say about women's wrestling and the women's wrestling community with other teams? Do you guys feel close? Do you feel like there's a bond there? Is there competition? Lexi, we'll start with you. Just walk us through your feelings on that.
I feel like, especially making like national teams and like world teams, I've been able to like meet and engage with a lot more people than if I hadn't. Um, Growing up, like obviously I had like a connection with a lot of the Illinois girls, like the Team Illinois girls, but wasn't really on like a high school team. I was the only girl on my high school team for majority of the time I was in high school. So most of the connections I had were like through Team Illinois. But then I started making teams. I started meeting other girls at these camps, and I feel like I gained some real connections and like bonds through that. And I feel like that's honestly something that's like pretty special because even though like I'm we're all on completely different teams, like I still have made like friends, and I feel like that's actually probably one of the best parts about wrestling is all the people I met, all the places I go. It's like special, and it's like different because it's people that you meet that like truly have the same goals, aspirations as you, and you're very like-minded, but people are coming from all different places, all different backgrounds, and you just kind of connect. But I've made some real friendships throughout the way. I think it also kind of helps because I started at a smaller school, so it's like I don't know. It's like I'm like somewhere in the mix. So it's like I'm friends with people from North Central. I'm friends with people from Iowa. I'm friends with people from McKendree. Like I just make friends all over. It's like, but I'm like kind of just in the middle floating.
I actually we had a great experience GB did this last duel. We had a team that we went against, and I think they're a newer program. I believe they're a club team. Um they cheered for us after we won the duel. They put their hands in, they said GV on three, and they cheered for us. And I think I've never seen anything like that before. They were the most respectful girls. They shook all of our hands and were just saying like, thank you, great job. And my opponent that I wrestled, she like held both my hands and she said, thank you so much. And so I think that seeing that in women's wrestling is so awesome. I don't think that you typically see that in men's wrestling. So I think that's something that we have that we get to experience. That's super cool. Um, and then um, With a rivalry, I think that there definitely are some. I think that we have some competitors, and I think all teams want to be the best. And I think that all girls are working for the same goals, and each team is working for those team goals. And I think that the competition is like friendly competition. I don't think that there's a whole bunch of like malicious intent when it comes to like these rivalries. I think it's all like friendly competition, so we can all just push each other for the same goals. Because um, I think within women's wrestling, we can all relate to one another and just see that we've all come from like the same kind of background. Like we just want what everyone else wants, and that's like to grow women's wrestling and be the best. So I feel like it's all like friendly rivalry. I am lucky to have created some very great relationships with some people at my old school. And so I actually keep in touch with a group of girls over my team, and they are my best friends, and I still keep in touch with them. And we'll always check in with one another, just text each other what's going on, or we'll send each other like videos on Snapchat and just tell each other what we got going on. We have friends right now trying to create plans, trying to fly to each other's homes to see each other. And I've definitely made some friends for life that um, I'm very blessed to experience. And I wasn't sure how that was going to go. That was like nerve-wracking for me because the change from going from my last school to here, I was worried about losing some friends, but I'm going on year 2 of being at GV, and we talk all the time.
Nadia, your coach, Joe Norton, has said you're connected, you're popular, you know a lot of the girls. How have you built those relationships?
Like some of it has actually came from social media, like starting off like in high school, posting TikToks, trying to grow women's wrestling and stuff like that, and just like making relationships through social media and kind of just like staying in touch with those wrestlers and like kind of following up on them with their journeys, whether they like, I know like I have some friends that go to like Life University or um, Iowa, like some girls, and like, yeah, I think for me, like a lot of those connections were made from um, just following each other on social media and then like seeing each other at tournaments and stuff like that. And it's just like, I don't know, wrestling, everybody knows everybody somehow. And it's just like such a tight-knit sport that everyone's like, there's so many different connections, like, and there's so much to connect with others about. And I just think, like Lexi said, just like being friends with like everyone kind of just floating around. And um, I feel like there's a good balance of like competition. Like, there's definitely more like competition schools and then other schools that like we might have like a closer bond. And I think a lot of that too is like what coaches are close with each other, like my coach could be close with the Aurora coach, or and not as close with like the Life coach, and then like we kind of connect with those girls more than these girls. And it kind of, I think a lot of it too comes from like what the coaches like, who they kind of like connect with, I guess.
Calli, you're unique in that you're in a club sport. I don't think you have a lot of girls on the team right now. It's different than North Central that they have 50 or so. What's your experience connecting with girls throughout the country and on your club team?
I think so far, honestly, I've already been sort of lucky in making certain connections. Obviously throughout high school, I've tried to maintain certain friendships or relationships with girls. I love women's wrestling because like I think that it is this very supportive community of women who are excited to meet other female wrestlers. Um, because I think a lot of us, not everybody, but a lot of us grew up me being like the only girl in the room or one of five girls in the room or something like that. It can be really exciting when you're in this room of like all women's wrestling. So like Fargo, the first time that it switched from like girls and boys being at the same time to girls wrestling and then boys wrestling, like being in the Fargo Dome with all high school girls wrestling was like really exciting to me. And like I would like follow my opponents on Instagram after matches. I would like I still have people that I run into and I have like full-blown conversations with who I maybe haven't seen in a year, but I wrestled them 2 years ago. And I love that aspect of the sport. And I think that that's definitely going to carry over here as well. Not even about like coaches' relationships. My coach's brother coaches at Arcadia. So like I've talked to a lot of those girls. And we've had like the two competitions that I've had so far, Princeton and Wilkes, overlapped with them. And so I do think that having like um connections in other ways can be super helpful. Um, but yeah, being in a club sport right now, and like not having a very big team, it can be difficult. Like there are times where like a lot of times I'm grateful to be welcomed into our RTC training room, where the men are practicing, and I have access, not only to my coach but to the men's coaching staff, which is very, very cool, and super exciting. But also I'm the only girl in the room, and that's really cool. But also it can be a little bit intimidating. So again, just being in those environments where I have like where there are female coaches, where there are other female wrestlers that I can reach out to and make friends with, and be just like social with, is really exciting. Um, yeah, so I haven't had a lot of college experience. You know, like I'm new, like I've just gotten here. I'm a freshman, but I'm definitely looking forward to growing our team, and making connections with other teams and other girls sort of across the country.
Take what you guys have said about the weight cutting, the wrestling. It's an insanely difficult sport. How do you get through some of the lulls that you go through? Because that's going to happen in a combat sport like wrestling. Lexi, we'll start with you.
I've kind of grown this like mindset where it's like I'm not taking everything too serious. At the end of the day, like win, lose, I'm still me. I love being me. And it's just like taking each day as it is. Like I'm obviously I have to take into consideration different factors, but um like my coach likes to talk about like negative thoughts being like passing clouds, just let it go by. And that's kind of how, if I start getting too stressed or like overstimulated about like what's going on in my life, it's just the end of the day, like it's gonna pass. Like just treat it for how it is, like each day at a time. I don't know. It's like kind of hard because I love the fact that wrestling's hard and all the emotions it brings me. I'm honestly grateful for. Nothing else I've ever done in my life has made me feel this great and has made me feel this worse. So it's like, and this time where I'm competing, I'm never gonna get these years back. So kind of embrace those hard moments, embrace the struggle, because once it's over, and you're gonna be missing it. It's like every coach talks about how they miss competing, how they miss like before a match, like the adrenaline you get and like the feeling of going out there, nothing ever compares to that. And every time I get that feeling, I'm reminded of like why I love doing this. And those hard days, like walking out, like I accomplished that. And even if I didn't, then it's like the next day I'm going to try to accomplish it. And that's just the kind of person I am. So for me, it's like just embracing it, embracing the hard. Wrestling isn't easy. If it was easy, everyone would be good at it. That's kind of like, I just like, I like being tough.
I think it's really important to just try and reframe things. And um, what I've been doing a lot this year is just remembering that this is a privilege, that this is um, a very unique and special opportunity that I have. And so, even in like the hardest moments and like when I'm getting my weight down and those kind of things that aren't like my most favorite thing in the world or the best feeling, I am very lucky to be where I am. And so I start to look at it as like, I'm glad I'm cutting weight right now, or I'm glad that like I'm having a hard day today, and or I'm glad that like practice was very difficult today and I don't feel 100% because I'm still here. And so I think just thinking of it that way has helped tremendously.
I totally agree. I think there's a big aspect of it that like I like who I am when I overcome adversity. I feel good about myself. It's how I identify myself. I identify myself as being tough, as being someone who overcomes. And reminding myself of that when I'm sort of going through it, when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling like I can't accomplish something after a loss. I think that can be really motivating for me is no, like this is who I am. This is who this sport has made me. Um, and I think sticking to that has really helped me come out of some lulls. Also, like a big aspect of it for me is like it's hard to not let outside elements impact like my wrestling. Like if I've just gotten like a bad grade or like if things have really picked up like right now I'm in finals season, everyone is. Um or like if I have like family issues. I think making sure that like wrestling is its own focus has been really important for me, and just sort of not letting that other stuff like seep in. When I'm in the wrestling room, I'm in the wrestling room, and it can feel like almost impossible, and maybe it is impossible to not let that seep in, but being purposeful about what I'm doing when I'm in the room has helped me then feel better about myself afterwards too. Like I I love wrestling, so when I'm feeling like overwhelmed and then I have like wrestling practice, I usually feel better afterwards. And keeping just a positive attitude about the sport in general and letting it be something that boosts me and like picks me up instead of like breaks me down, has always been really important to me and to continuing to get better and just keep enjoying the sport. Something my coach always says um, is um, you act on principle, not feeling. Um, which at first, like I was kind of like, that sounds hard and not real. But it has truly like helped. The more that I act on who I want to be and the way that I want to hold myself, the easier it's been to maintain that. And like acting on feelings, it's the first thing you want to do, right? Like you have a feeling and you want to just like you have like an immediate reaction, but taking a step back and thinking about it and acting on the way that you want to be, the way that you want to hold yourself. It has kind of consistently helped me get out of those lulls, to just kind of keep trucking and moving forward.
With wrestling being such a demanding and lonely sport, you're cutting weight by yourself, you're in your own head a lot, you're dealing with pressure that people who don't wrestle don't understand. Um, and it all comes down to like wrestling being such a lonely sport and just understanding that like you're not the only one alone and like you don't have to go through those hard times alone. Like that's what teams and coaches and support systems are there for. Like for me, like my toughest weeks, like I don't think I would have made it through if I didn't have my teammates right there with me going through those same hard things or like pushing me through those hard things. And I think like um I don't think I would have made like as much growth as I have if I would have just like um not carried my wrestling from high school to the college level, because a lot of us female wrestlers do come from high school rooms like that are like male dominant, and so like it is kind of hard struggling like alone and kind of like back to what we said, like cutting weight on your period, like being on like a male's like a men's team, like there's no one to like really go to about that, and it's like not talked about as much. And so I think like getting to college and being on a women's team and having like so many other girls like and women's coaches like who understand, who've been through it, who like you can lean on and like not feel like scared to like talk about those things. Yeah, so I think just like really leaning on like your support systems, and like for me the only way that I like get out of those hard times is just leaning on my teammates.
What is something about women's wrestling that you know that other people don't know? Just something you think is a misconception or that you think other people should know. Lexi, we'll start with you.
We kind of grown past this a little bit, but I feel like growing up there was like always this misconception that like girl wrestlers are like weird, but like in reality we're just like girls that just happen to wrestle. Like I don't know how to explain it, but there's definitely growing up there was like a big stigma around like I remember even being like a little bit embarrassed to like tell other people that didn't wrestle that I wrestled, because it was like it is a male dominated sport and you are looked at a little bit funny if you were a girl wrestler doing it. Even to like the guy wrestlers, you were kind of like interpreted as like a little bit different. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like we've grown past it a little bit. But for the most part, that's kind of like you could be a girly girl and you could still wrestle. Like you don't have to be like super like, and it's okay if you are like you don't have to be super masculine to be a female wrestler. You could be a girly girl and you can happen to wrestle, because like it's you're just girls that wrestle. You're just women that wrestle.
There are so many. I feel like the first thing that comes to mind, a lot of times, people are surprised when I tell them that I wrestled boys in high school. It's like shocking to them. Um, and also, a lot of times, strangely, on the flip side, people ask, "Do you wrestle boys in college?" And I'm like, "No." And they're surprised at that somehow because they haven't never heard of women's wrestling. So I get like surprise reactions on either side. And I do still train like I train one-on-one with my coach a lot, like as my partner, um, who's male. But has been like that has been super helpful for me. So I guess like a misconception would just be like I think men's and women's wrestling, like we train together a lot. Like it's separate for a lot of people in a lot of programs and a lot of high schools. Um, but my entire high school career, I like my training partners, most of them were male. Especially my freshman sophomore year, they were almost all male. And that has its pros and cons. Like that can be super helpful and it definitely has its pitfalls as well. So I don't know like exactly what I would say the misconception is, because I kind of feel like there's like misconceptions on either side of that. Um, where like it's very different for everyone. Um, but like I think like for me, training with guys has been very important to my development as a wrestler. Especially like when I train with male partners, a lot of times I have to really put an emphasis on my technique. And as someone who like I've found that I tend to be stronger than a lot of people in my weight class, and I can rely on that in a lot of my matches and not necessarily like um perfect my technique when I wrestle guys, especially guys who are maybe a little bit bigger and stronger than me. I really have to rely on my technique. But obviously, like there are positives and negatives to that sort of dynamic and to that situation. And yes, like there's a lack of female partners for a lot of girls, and I think it is very important for girls to have female partners, sort of above anything else. But there are also positives to being able to work out with like guys.
I don't think people realize how much wrestling like teaches you about yourself, and also how many like how much it just wrestling just forces you to learn like who you really are. Like even outside of wrestling too, and how much like the lessons that you learn that come from wrestling and how much they like translate into like your regular day-to-day life and on after that. Um, and just how valuable the lessons that you learn from wrestling like truly are and can contribute to all other aspects of your life.
Wrestling kind of teaches you how to handle like the hardest situations that life can throw at you. I think because of uh, the time that you put into it, the work that you put into it, I think it all gives you this like this background and how to handle real life situations and like bigger situations. And um, I just think it teaches you how to deal with the really hard stuff. And um, I think wrestling like shapes people. And I think that like I absolutely would not be the person I am today without wrestling. And not just like as an athlete, but just as like a human being.